Welcome back to the Nerdrotic Podcast. My name is Gary Beekler. I am live in San Francisco, California. I come to you from nerdrotic.com, and I am with my two lovely and talented co-hosts tonight, Dennis Bethalkis in San Diego and John Reed in Lake Tahoe. Gentlemen, what's up?
Dennis, how are you? How's it going, Dennis?
Hockey, I think, is up.
Hockey season. Yeah, go Sharks. Anyway, yeah, it's Monday. It's gifted night. We get to cleanse the palate from Star Wars. I know that a lot of the new subscribers are subscribing based on the Star Trek. Star Trek Discovery. I just watched Star Wars Rebels today as well. But based on our Star Trek podcast. So if those of you are joining us, welcome. For the first time, welcome. But the gifted is kind of a palate cleanser for me. Jeez, I'm getting ahead of myself. Palate cleanser for me. And even though tonight was maybe the weakest of the series so far, I still feel like the episode ended strong, and I'm happy, decisively happy to be breaking it down with you guys tonight.
Oh, definitely. What did you think, Dennis?
Yeah, I definitely thought this was a weak episode, and could have honestly been taken care of in like 15 minutes at the beginning of an episode, and then kind of move along the story a little bit faster than what happened.
There certainly was a lot of waiting for a car to come around the corner or waiting for stuff.
And there was talking in the hallway. It started off with talking in the hallway.
There was talking about feelings in a hallway. We had our CW moment. It was bound to happen. It's network television. Something we don't normally cover on this station, but John is a huge X-Men fan. We're Marvel fans. That's why we do this show. At least Dennis and I are huge Legion fans, and I have been re-binging that to see if there's any kind of a connection. They're both kind of on the same network. Mm-hmm. And there was a brief mention of, for one, sorry, gifted fans, Legion is a better show. Watching it again, wow! It is just, if you haven't seen it, go watch Legion. It's amazing. But
I'm gonna say that Legion is a better written show, and it's a very it's an intensely specific show. Whereas The Gifted, I think, is better for just a general audience. I really do think The Gifted has a much better broad appeal than Legion. I really, really hate Legion, even though I recognize that it's a good show. It's not something that entertains me really in any way. So I think the production value, the writing, if you were to view it as like a piece of art, I would say Legion is definitely superior. But just as broad appeal entertainment, I think The Gifted is.
Yeah, I don't know if broad appeal entertainment's a compliment.
No,
that's just me. I respectfully disagree. But what I was trying to get to was the point was in the first episode of Legion, they mentioned an incident that they don't mention again for the rest of the season. That it would be really cool if they connected this incident. Probably not. It could have been just a throwaway, but it was the Red Hook incident that they when they first have David locked up and they're interrogating him, and they talk to some general, and he mentions just in passing the Red Hook incident. So that'd be cool if they connected these shows. They totally can, even though it seems like Legion almost takes place in another time. It doesn't. It just has like an early 70s feel to it, but it actually does take place in modern times. And I do believe the X-Men are missing in that show.
Yes.
So this show had a rough start because of just the waiting. I wouldn't even mind the talking about feelings and hallways scenes. Those didn't bother me as much as the cartel scene. I want to get right to the cartel scene just real quick, guys. Can I just bring up that that the Latin guy just happens to know somebody from the cartel? Is that not just a little that goes and that see, Hollywood.
Yeah, honestly, it gets to an op-ed that I really wanted to write. I wanted to talk about this. It's just a hard subject.
Thunderbird knows somebody from the cartel. I mean,
I agree. It's funny because Hollywood does this weird thing where it's like liberal Hollywood is a thing, but liberal Hollywood always makes the government the bad guy, does all these crazy, the Latin guy is always part of the cartel. There's always these little things that they pull on into the writing of all these stories that are very much not. So it's just this hypocritical, it's this hypocritical stereotypical thing that always has bugged me. But yes, that was the Carmen storyline of this episode was by far the worst thing we've seen in The Gifted so far. And I'm happy that it ended halfway through the episode and then was never really referenced again after he got the information he needed. And more than anything, I'm happy that Polaris is now out of her cell, out of her power blocker, and we get to see what she can do in a real fight. So I agree with you, though. It was the first half of this episode was like, oof, where are they going with it?
Go on, Jen. Sorry.
This whole episode was very just heavy-handed. Honestly, it left a bad Bryan Singer taste in my mouth, no pun intended. And it just felt like a throwback to, like, you know, the crap he's been doing. The writing, I don't know, it just felt all dragged out. And then the whole thing with introducing Gus or Pulse in the very beginning, you're like, oh shit, they're gonna bring somebody else in again. You know, he's gonna come back from the dead, and okay, he can, you know, he can block mutant powers. Okay, I get it.
So I'm gonna, in defense of that, I really liked that to me, it was like almost like scene for scene the Morph storyline from the X-Men cartoon in the first episode, where Morph is behind like a chain link fence. He goes in for a raid, he gets killed, and then he comes back later on the other side of the aisle, and they don't know what's going on. And so, like, I almost loved this parallel between the pilot episode of the X-Men cartoon with Pulse in this episode. So even though I didn't like the execution, maybe wasn't there, but I liked that parallel exists, whether or not they were trying to do it or not.
And I caught that too. Okay, by the way, X-Men cartoon is great. But that is the extent of Bryan Singer's knowledge, and we've gone over this multitude in podcasts that, like, he admitted he doesn't read the comics. So I've read some X-Men. Okay, I was not a diehard X-Men fan. So Eclipse is, and we discussed this a little bit before the podcast, Eclipse is basically Sunspot and Havoc, we think. And now, and that's why, but did Sunspot, did any of this cartel stuff, like, did it happen in Sunspot's past or anything?
Yeah, it did.
Or, okay.
No. There's stuff like this in Sunspot's past. He comes from a family of dirty money, and then he reinvests that money in, like, positive things after he becomes a new mutant, right? So this stuff exists. That said, I think I think that's giving them a lot of credit, because I don't think that that's intentional. Like, if that parallel exists, I'm not to say it couldn't be intentional, but just from how this show, like the tone of the show and what they're doing, it doesn't seem to me like they're drawing on more than just, like, broad character swaths. Like, they're doing a good job of the broad character stuff. Like, Polaris is very Polaris, and Blink is pretty dead on for Blink, and, you know, so they're doing a pretty good job of that. But as far as, like, okay, there's, like, these obscure stories about how Sunspot's family got his money and it's related to I just don't think that those are things that they're necessarily.
I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy. The fact that he actually is with the cartel doesn't entirely bother me. And we did get a little exposition on like what he did and what he's capable of. And
you also got him with the rosary. Yeah, you also got him with the rosary afterwards, like the good, like, Mexican Catholic guy. You know, like, so they did a lot. They did that a couple times in this episode. But and again, I did not like the first half of this episode. I still think that the second half made up for it in my eyes.
Well, like, I think it did too.
I was actually looking up on IMDb who the writers were on this one, and Meredith Lavender and Marcy Ullman were the writers. They're both writers for Nashville. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And that's why it just really sucked.
That's what Heroes suffered from. It just had a bunch of writers who had they did a bunch of regular dramatic TV. And I know Jeff Loeb was involved, but he's involved with this one, and we can go down that road if we want to.
Well, I actually wanted to, but I don't know if I want to go down the Jeff Loeb's involvement road, but I do want to say that, like, there are a lot of people, like, drawing the parallel between Heroes and The Gifted, and where like I feel like there's this big thing where people kind of ignore execution. You know, like you get Heroes, which maybe like on paper, like there are elements that definitely overlap between the two, like lots of elements. But when it comes down to like the actual execution of the television show, I don't feel like they could be much further apart. Like Heroes is very like plastic feeling. It feels very like a sheen, like a Disney sheen over the whole show. And if it just feels like a comic book made for kids, whereas this feels a lot more like a comic book made for like us, like adults.
I'm
So
just gonna say, I'm gonna say this series, the Gifted, only has what, 10 episodes? Is that correct?
Yep.
It could not afford a filler episode like this.
No.
And that was its main problem. Again, I'm going to go back. You could have condensed this entire episode into 15 minutes. Get rid of the cartel bullshit. Have the escape happen and move on with the story. Because right now, for people like us that have been watching the show, and then also if you have a new person coming in, it hurt pretty bad. I mean,
I don't know. I almost completely disagree with that. We're looking at 4 episodes right now, and of the 4 episodes, a half an hour of it was stuff that I didn't think was great. But everything else has moved, has developed characters, has developed story, has really set the tone for what this show is. I feel like in 4 episodes, this show has done what almost every other new show I've seen in a while fails to do, and has moved quickly and to a point where it's like, wow, we know these characters, we know what they're fighting for, we know what they're fighting against, and we know where every character kind of fits into that story. So I feel like this is a pretty strong 4-episode arc, and I don't know if the like 30 minutes in the middle of the 4th episode, the 30 minutes at the beginning of the 4th episode detracts from the fact that they've given us this strong of a 4-episode start. I mean, it doesn't seem like 4 episodes in. It seems like it's a lot further into this show.
I'm saying when you only have 10 episodes in a season, you can't squander even that 30 minutes, because right now you could have had a little more character exposition. You could move the story along a little bit more.
What and I'm right in between with you guys. It's like mom and dad are fighting. I think it needed. It looks like next week we're going to finally find out what the July 15th incident was. They could have done that this episode. So what I need is context right now, because like I just a little slow on the draw, guys. I just realized that Sentinel Services comes out when I looked at IMDb. A guy, it says SS Guard, and I'm like, oh yeah, Bryan Singer. So I just caught the SS thing, and that's what it feels like. We're in like dictator Nazi Germany. So I need way more context to what the hell is going on, because I can't see anybody being on Sentinel Services side. Even in a comic book, they need to show me what happened to cause this fear in the humans to make them go ass crazy and put mutants in concentration camps after we've had the X-Men who've saved the human race 4 or 5 times up to this point. 2 times that they've known of, like a couple times they didn't know, but like what happened, and I need to know. And I think waiting till episode 5, we'll see how it plays out. I liked the last half of this episode. I thought it really did pick up. Lorna's like by far the best thing in this episode. She's great, but I like the clips in it too, even with his bad scene. I like him too. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I understand the context. I think that they're taking for granted the fact that, like, when they talk about how the X-Men have said a war is coming, I feel like it came right after that scene where the Kelly incident in the White House. Isn't that about where this is taking place? So like, or is it after all of the X-Men? Is it after X3? Like you're right, Gary. We need context. Because if all that stuff in those movies has happened, I can understand why the government has created a service to be able to take down mutants when they get out of line. Because there have been a lot of incidents throughout the movies. It would be nice to know where this thing takes place in that continuity.
Yeah, the timing is going to be interesting because we got the Dark Phoenix saga coming out next year, I believe, and that takes place in the 90s.
Yeah, so all those are like prequels to what happened in like X1 and 2, right? Like those are all supposed to take place before, right?
So I guess where we're at is in the timeline post Days of Future Past,
or post the Ratner movie. I think it's either after X1 or X2 is where we're at, or somewhere around there.
Days of Future Past kind of like redid the Ratner movie, so I think
yeah. So, I hate this fucking continuity. I can't stand it.
I know, right? Like
welcome to the Singerverse.
And it's okay. You don't have to get specific with us, but like, just give us a couple nuggets, like what the hell's going on. And then I'm cool. Because if you're going to dive into the X-Men world, we have been interacting with Star Trek fans for the last 3 weeks, who are I am reminded that they are the most passionate fan base on this planet. They're the ones who started fandom. They started it all, conventions, everything. It was Star Trek fans. But I'd say within the top 5 are X-Men fans. I mean, I know Marvel has not treated you guys well in the last few years since the Disney sale, to be honest with you, because
the Jason Aaron stuff. The Jason Aaron stuff post Disney was all the Wolverine and the X-Men books were all really good. But on the whole, you're right. Since the Morrison stuff, really,
honestly, I was gonna say Morrison. That's the last time I really liked the X-Men. I just don't think Disney has known what to do with them, or I think there's marketing departments who want to suppress them. So. Again,
my general point though is that on a show that I like this much, that harkens back to shows I love like Buffy and Angel, and gives me X-Men in a way that is better than most of the X-Men I've gotten, frankly, outside of comic books in a long time, or even including comic books in a long time. They could have a bad half hour at the beginning of every single episode and end like they did this episode, and I'd still be excited about this TV show. So that's all I'm saying is I dig what they're doing, and they're gonna fuck up a lot, I'm guessing.
Sure, no, it wasn't a bad episode. It wasn't. I mean, dude, I would take a bad half hour of Star Trek, just a bad. Just
to give me a good half hour of Star Trek,
I'll grant you, it was better than an Inhumans episode.
Oh God,
sure.
I went back.
It's better than anything in Arrow last season. I'd rather have the cartel than the Russians.
No, this is still a very good show. I like this episode. Jeez. It just had a slow, but I agree with Dennis, and I even mentioned it. It's like if this was like an 18 episode season, the slow part, but I mean, it's nothing to like we need to trip on or anything, because they did make up for it like right away. They finally got they broke them out. I'm curious about the what's his name, Pulse, because didn't he look kind of like sick or dead or like something?
He looked pale from like. When he started using his powers, you could see like from the nose down, he was all white. And then when he got knocked out, he went completely white.
And then it had that little tattoo.
Yeah, the little tattoo on his inside wrist.
So I wonder what's going on with that. They're obviously testing on him. That must be part of that.
Experimenting.
Who they
the Dr. Campbell stuff. You're right. It's probably whatever alliance Dr. Campbell has with Sentinel Services.
Well, no, Dr. Campbell isn't working with Sentinel Services right now, because remember, he doesn't want to. I can't remember the name of the guy now, who the bald guy. What's his name?
Yeah, he said we won't turn over this information, but they clearly had a relationship. I mean, he said we won't work with contractors.
With third-party contractors.
Yeah, third-party contractors.
But I agree. I think they've had some contact with them before. He's a third-party contractor. Who knows?
I think this could be a precursor to like the mutant hunters. Like Rachel. And Days of Future Past.
Like the Hound, like the Hounds.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean,
I
have no idea because I have no context. But
okay. there is no context. So right now we're just kind of spitting in the wind.
Did that remind you of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. logo, the little like eagle on his?
Well, funny you should mention that, because one of the director has directed quite a few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, Oh, so it could be a little. It could be a little Easter egg or something. Maybe.
Well, this also is a co-produced Marvel project. I mean, a lot of times you'll see the Marvel logo with the X-Men stuff, but that just means, hey, this is our brand that we sold to them, but we have very little involvement. They have involvement into the show. This is just what I've heard anyway, and what I've read is this is a test in the waters to see if this works or not. I don't know if it got renewed. I know they're starting to announce
it's on the bubble. Yeah, it's on the bubble. Everyone says that Family Guy and The Gifted are the two that are likely to be renewed that are on the bubble right now. So I would be surprised if it wasn't. I'm more looking for if they give it a full series run rather than a 10 episode run. Like that's the thing I'm more interested in seeing. I would bet it'll get renewed. If it doesn't, I will be absolutely shocked. But I'm actually expecting it'll probably get more episodes next season than it had this season.
I was a little surprised it was only 10 episodes. With Dennis and I went to con, and man, they were marketing that thing everywhere. They had actually the best marketing thing at the con. They did your actual
marketing, man.
Yeah, that was genius.
Get tested,
DNA tested.
Yeah. So, and they had giant billboards everywhere. So I thought it was a full complement, 18 episodes. But yeah, when John told me 10, I'm like, what?
So do you think, sorry, I know I'm kind of skipping around in the episode a little bit, but do you guys think that, so Blink has been incepted with memories of Dreamer and Thunderbird's relationship. And she keeps like waking up in the middle of the night because she's having these like intense like sex dreams or what, not really, but intense dreams of her making out with Thunderbird outside. And so like she approaches him about it, and he doesn't tell her, first of all, that she's been incepted, which like, why the hell not? And second of all, do you guys think that because they were incepted, because these are false memories, that's why they're so like on her mind and haven't just like faded into the background? Like, do you think there's something there with the way her power works?
Well, he didn't tell her, first of all, because they needed her for the mission, and to kind of like Dreamer was saying, she goes, if you tell her, is she going to leave? Is she going to, not help us? All that kind of stuff. So he needed her for the mission. That's what he was using her for. Okay. And then, I mean, granted, I'm thinking that when she was incepted, she was actually sick. You got to remember. So it could be that it's sticking around a little bit longer because of what happened to her.
Well, they've also mentioned that something has gone wrong in the past.
Thunderbird's a handsome devil, and maybe she just likes him anyway.
That could be it.
Oh yeah,
that's it. I think. I think it might be something to do with her power. That'd be interesting. Especially with the whole theory that she is not from their timeline, possibly. Yeah. And they're all. This was TV logic of like, oh, we can't tell her the truth because we need conflict here. I mean, it's
that was CW.
It would be really easy. Exactly, it'd be really easy to just tell her the truth. It's like, hey, sorry, we had to do this thing, because now it's gonna, make her, when she eventually finds out, probably in the penultimate episode, she will run away. So you'll get what you were afraid of in the first place.
Well, the pace that it has been going so far up until this episode, it'll probably happen within the next couple, unless they do really slow it down like they did tonight. What do you guys think of Caitlin though? Like Amy Acker is such a great actress, and that, I don't know, I loved everything that happened.
Considering all the crap that she was given in this episode to work with, I mean, she pulled it out compared to. See, I think the kids actually took a step backwards.
Agreed.
The whole thing of having to anger Andy in order to get him to use his powers. And I'm just like, really? Are we going this route again?
It was the bake sale today. I'm so sad. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I agree with you. The kids took a step back, but she holds that up so well.
I don't watch a ton of CW. I kind of out on the Flash and Arrow and all those shows now, which is very sad. But so it doesn't bother me when those little bake sale things come up now, because I don't see them that much. But I bet you, like, if you're watching all those shows, I could see how that would get really old.
We mention it all the time when we were doing the CW cast.
It's the reason there's no more roundtable, really. We just couldn't keep up with like 5 hours of that every week, plus all these other shows.
Felicity just wants to lead a normal life, and she's talking about her feelings in a hallway.
Flashback to Russians.
While she's hacking satellites. and keeping track of where Arrow is and the bad guys.
Yeah, but no, I really feel like she is like Amy Acker to me is one of those people who like brings some real legitimate like chops to this show, and I think that it's like raising the rest of the water rising all ships or whatever the saying is. Like I feel like she's the water right now, like kind of propping a lot of these.
Except for
it was cool. It was cool. Mom taking charge and especially hitting that guy in the neck. That was cool. That was Boss Mom. I even put Boss Mom down in my notes. So yeah, that was I love Amy Acker. She's doing a great job.
Stephen Moyer, the only good scene that he's had in these 4 episodes is when he finally tells Polaris to use the screw in his leg. That
was so cool.
That was awesome.
That was about the only good thing that he's done in this entire series so far. And
my wife was sitting next to me and she was like, oh God, do they have to do this? Do they have to do this? What's gonna I was like, this is so badass. Like, and then using the like spike from his pin from his knee to like just murder 2 of the guards in that cell. It was they don't pull punches in this show, which is great.
I know a thing or two about cars, just a little bit, and I just want to point out that unless the entire bus was made out of effing plastic, that they were standing on, I don't know, at least I can think off the top of my head about 300 screws and nuts that she was standing 6 inches above. So like
they don't need the collar, they just need to shrink wrap her in plastic, because apparently
do her powers only like they don't work down, like what the hell? That's the one thing I wrote down. Like all she needs to do is take out like one wheel hub bolt and it's done. That's all you need to do, or just undo it's now they got the axle. That was good.
They're supposed to be in the
plastic. So her powers don't work through the plastic? Is that it?
Right. Shrink wrapper. That's all they need to do. They don't
Why
need a
doesn't
collar.
everybody just wear plastic around her then?
Yeah, ponchos.
Yeah, little plastic ponchos.
Because that would be too easy.
Okay. Okay. That's see the singer isms that come in. And
to be fair, those are probably just like TV-isms, like the bus was supposed to be plastic, but they're like, we're not building you a fucking plastic bus. You can have a normal bus with a plastic cage, and they're like, well, it doesn't really work for our script, but I guess it'll have to do.
Just keep the collar on. I was buying the collar thing on. Just leave the collar on.
So basically, all you need really is one of those plastic police shields. That's all Sentinel Services really needs. Hold up in front of their guns, and she's basically powerless.
It would have been badass if she would have just gotten the screw out with her collar on, and her bleeding a little bit, because she was proving that she could use her powers a little bit with that collar on, and getting a screw out of some flesh would have been nothing for Polaris. And it was still a cool scene. I still loved it though, and getting that guy in the neck, that was good.
Did they leave Pulse behind, or did they take him with them?
They left him.
They left him behind. Again.
That seems like a mistake to me.
Oh yeah.
Right?
They they couldn't like go and get him. He was surrounded by a bunch of Sentinel Service guards, some SS guards. So I mean,
and honestly, Stephen Moyer's character just needs to die. That's
okay. Well, that's not going to happen. See, I'm looking at the poster right now, and he is there. This is about the Strucker family.
I know. He's just a horrible actor. Sorry, he just really is. He's
okay, Dennis. Yes, he's not great. I don't think he's horrible though. That's just me though. I don't get hung up on it. I don't. Especially when
dying over there. Oh wait, no.
When there's kid actors in it, because when you have kid actors, they sometimes they don't have the chops yet because they're kids. So that never bothers me with kid.
No, the kids are actually good. I mean, compared to Stephen Moyer, they're actually Academy Award worthy compared to him.
I know what to do for Dennis's birthday. We need to take him to like a Stephen Moyer signing somewhere. Like, be like, "Hey, Dennis, it's a surprise trip. We're gonna go to your favorite place," and like introduce him to Stephen Moyer for the day. They get to hang out, go have brunch together, ride the rides together at Disneyland. It'll be the best day ever.
Queen's best friend is playing in the background, and they're like, watching at Disneyland.
I'm gonna dress like you, like I am today. By the way, in case anyone's wondering, I am dressed like John today, just because it's Halloween. It's near Halloween.
It's Monday.
And I can sucker punch Stephen Moyer and say, "My name is John Reed,"
Hey, I'm John Reed.
No,
That's great.
this is for
And then
True
be like,
Blood, the final
yeah, where's your
season.
wife?
Oh,
Not that I advocate
man.
violence against anybody, but
Punch
Except
a Stephen Moyer. What did
Punch
he ever do? Man, I want to find out what he did to you, man. We can talk about that off air.
Just
Oh God, they're gonna demonetize us for this, aren't they? YouTube's gonna
probably
screw
are.
us for this conversation.
Thanks.
Don't flag us, people. Don't flag us. We're not actually
Yeah.
condoning any of this. It's a
And
joke.
no, we're not. We want that 15 cents we're gonna make from this thing. Oh man.
So let's. I know we haven't been talking. We've been talking 30 minutes. So the scenes from next week look really, really good. Like, is the war actually like starting now? Like, is this about to be like a whole half a season of just like?
What I got was that's all the season. Like they just took scenes from the rest of the season and kind of pepper. I don't think it's all in the next episode.
Okay, that's fair.
So
that would make sense. It looked like a lot of good stuff coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me too. And actually, I thought I saw a scene from a previous episode too, but it could have been a flashback. We are definitely going to find out what happened to Sentinel Services Guard's daughter, which is like, I think they should have done this earlier, but that's cool. And to give us, we're finally going to get our context, like what happened. We heard
need to humanize him a little bit.
Yeah. Otherwise, just that guy needs to die. But I mean, in the show, and yeah, that's all. That's the only flaw. I mean, like I said, the slow part of I mean, that's why we're talking about the second half of the show, because that was honestly the only thing to talk about. But I mean, overall, it's been very, very good, and not great, but it could be great. This, it's still early. But I want to see. I'm glad to see kind of the gang back together, because we haven't seen that. So I want to see how Eclipse and Polaris together. I want to see where they go from here. I want to see what the July 15th is. They mentioned the X-Men. Which is nice to just hear that they existed in the world. And I want to know. Well, they said they warned them about a war. Like,
yeah, they mentioned them in the beginning. The first episode, they said the X-Men and the Brotherhood both disappeared. So they did mention them in the first episode.
Yeah, they did. I'm just glad they're mentioning him again. Because any mention of the X-Men is good. What I want to find out specifically is where the hell is Professor X?
Yeah.
You want to feel like this world is bigger than just like a 3-block radius in Atlanta, right? And that's where they need to get with this. They need to start opening it up a little bit. And I know that we're going to get like the attack on the underground, and that's really where this is gearing up. Like the Sentinel Services taking the battle to them seems to be where they're going from the last few lines of this episode. So they're probably not going to open up the world like that. They're probably actually going to get smaller and have it really take place at the underground headquarters or whatever. But even though that's the case, I hope we keep kind of getting a couple, character moments here, a couple extra characters there. Like when the guy who went invisible got shot, it was like, oh, well, we just met this guy today, so he's probably going to die. Like we've got such a small world.
He only had 3 days to retirement too.
Yeah. Getting too old for this shit. What I also need to see is more Sentinel Service bad guys. Like we've got the two. We've got the Doctor, who all he does is seem to make phone calls. He's not really working on his science. And we've got the one guy who's got a personal vendetta. So how does Sentinel Services feel about that? Because that's gonna put them in a bad light. And what the hell are they? Are they a government contract, or are they some weird rogue,
like a branch of security?
Like what are they? I'm sure we're gonna find all this out. But yeah, I hope it's all out war for the next 5 episodes. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. We find a little more about Blink. About the Blink's contact lenses look very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I know they make them better now. They just wow. I was like,
every time I saw her, that's all I saw was just the eyes, and it's just like, okay. Just in this episode, for some reason, the previous episodes, no, but this one was distracting. I don't know what was going on with it.
Well, this episode was in daylight. Like all the other episodes have been kind of dark. So this was
Blink has been hanging out inside a lot too. So she kind of was more in sunlight. Yeah.
And by the way,
that's what her eyes look like, though. I mean, that's cool. I think
guy here. was named SS Winkler. Don't ask
Wait,
me
who
why.
was?
The guy who could disappear, that can turn himself invisible. His character's name was SS Winkler.
Because there's no like camouflage X-Men that they could have used for this. But yeah, anyway, that's a nitpicky thing for me.
That was our argument. Like when we first heard of the show, was that when they first said that they were just going to make up all the X-Men, we're like, what? I'm glad they didn't.
As if you don't have a roster of like hundreds of characters in the X-Men universe that you could draw. Exactly. Morlocks. Just like give us all the Morlocks. I'd be good with that. But no, look, I'm excited for where it's going to go. I agree with Dennis. That first half, I texted you guys half an hour in and said like definitely the worst episode so far. This is slow, and then I was like looking at my watch to see when the like battle, because it was all leading up to this like heist that they were doing to get Polaris and Reed back, and so I was like, okay, well, when's that going to start? If it's like a 10-minute thing, this has been a waste of an episode. But it actually started with 25 minutes left in the episode, and so for me that includes the conversations with Blink and Thunderbird and the girl and her mom, but still they were out, so to me that's like good. That's like it gave us a bad half hour, which I would like to see them correct. But if they keep giving me 25-minute sections like they do at the end of this episode, I'm really liking the show, especially grading on a curve of other like just kind of normal superhero, like broad entertainment superhero shows like Arrow, Flash, Inhumans, Powers. I don't know. I can't name them all, but of all those, just kind of like here's a superhero show. This is a normal superhero show. Like to me, this is like Mark. I think that if they keep pumping them out like this, I'll be happy, even though I know they won't.
I, for one, hope we have 3 more episodes of nothing but Carmen's background.
You're not looking forward to the Carmen spinoff? They're not renewing this series. They're renewing the Carmen.
Hey guys, it's Carmen Sandiego. We found it.
Yeah. Where in the world?
Yeah.
Good Lord, that character sucks.
She is a drug lord. We've always known.
Hot.
Yeah, I think it's really good. It still feels like it's in that Angel Buffy vein. Now, for network TV, this is very good. If this was on FX or HBO, it would not be good. I have different expectations for, like, when I go to a pay service and pay $5.99, I have very high expectations for a show.
I don't know
what show could that be?
About there. Yeah,
I'm like, I'm good. This is good for, I got to sit through commercials and crap, but that's good. That's great. No problem. And plus, they're laying some really good groundwork. It's bold to do an X-Men show. So this thing could end up with people in costumes and fighting bad guys. They are starting small. I know, like, we get excited because I'm a comic book fan and I want to see evil mutants and everything. But I mean, that comes in time. Right now, you got to keep it simple. Have them fighting the Sentinel services, fighting humans, getting.
If you compare this to the war. Yeah, if you compare this to the first few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Gotham or any of the other shows that are in this kind of price range, right? If you're looking at it in that way, this is definitely the best bang for your buck. It's not an HBO show, you're right. It's not an FX, it's not an AMC, it's not The Walking Dead. Like, they're not pumping the money into the show that those shows get. They're not casting them in the same way. It's really looking at a completely different demographic, I feel. But it's just for, like, plain out fun. I feel like... Gary, I think you and I are on the same page on this one. Dennis, you'll get there. I know you're already kind of there, but I think
it's gotta win me back. This episode damaged me.
Yeah, no, Dennis, it's like watching the Return of the Jedi and hating it because of Leia's Ewok scene. I mean, you can't. It was a slow, terrible scene, and it didn't make me hate the movie. And that you can't hate this for a slow 20 minutes. It wasn't even a half hour; it was 20 minutes. And yeah, there was a lot of, hey, that car's coming around the corner. Ooh, watch out! And, no, my kids can't be in danger. And da-da. Yeah, thankfully we were not going to get 18 episodes of that. I think it's moving. So. And as far as Reed, I don't know what Reed's. I could actually see him dying. They brought him in for star power in the first season, and
don't give Dennis hope, man. We're going to give the hope and take it away.
What can his character possibly do now that he's not, like, as a prosecutor, he had some power? and he could have done that. He could have had a role in the show, but right now he's just on the run. He's a nobody with no powers.
Gary, he's a dad. Didn't we just talk about how Hollywood doesn't treat dads right? He is
you know
a dad.
It's going to turn into a courtroom drama later on.
Oh God, no Iron Fist.
No. That's what I was setting up, John, was that he's obviously going to die because he's a dad, because he's a freaking dad, and we don't have dads in shows anymore. So I don't know. I only noticed that because I'm a dad, so all right, I got to take that shit a little personal. That's all. There's no good dads in TV.
No, he's a lawyer, so what's going to happen is it's obviously going to morph into a law show. It's going to be like, Law and Mutants or something like that. And it's just all going to be courtroom drama for the next, seasons 2 and 3.
The Mutants Restriction Act.
Yep.
These are their stories. That's in season 12 when they have like no budget left.
Yeah. Meanwhile, exit strategy. How do we rate the use of the X in this episode title?
I we're still okay. I'm gonna still rate it at about a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Not bad. Not bad.
As soon as we get to extreme exposure, or using words that sound like X that don't have X in them, like it's accidentally or something like that. That's when we're gonna have a problem.
Yep. That's where it's going. That's where it's going.
All I can say that I'm really glad is that the 2 writers of this episode are not in any of the rest of the season. They're not credited for anything else the rest of the season. So I'm happy with that because they really sucked.
Yeah, they were bad.
Well, I mean, this episode. Okay.
This episode.
They obviously are talented enough to work well.
No, the 2 writers specifically.
Never mind. I'm not even going to finish that.
Nashville. Yeah, no, you don't. We can kind of sum this up. I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. So stay tuned till after this. But you can find all of our updates at facebook.com/nerdrotic podcast. You'll also get our all the current news and our reactions to it. So head on over to facebook.com/nerdrotic podcast. Hit like. If you're not already watching us on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button for the Nerdrotic channel on YouTube. And if you just want to listen to us in audio only form, you can go to the iTunes podcast app or SoundCloud and search for Nerdrotic. That's the short version. We're also covering a bunch of other shows like Star Trek Discovery, Mr. Robot. We just stopped doing Inhumans. We've got Nerdrotic News, which is our flagship show. What episode are we on now? 100 and what, guys?
108 just dropped a couple days ago. Please check it out. It's a long one. It's like our longest podcast to date, 2 hours.
So check out all of this stuff. It helps us a lot if you're tuning in. And we are going to be monitoring all of our live chats for these shows. So if you have any questions you want us to answer on the podcast, just let us know in the chat and we'll try to address them as we see them come up.
We did have a question this podcast, correct?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
We have actually a couple.
So Brian wanted to know about the Tick prize winner announcement, Gary.
The Tick was... I'm going to have to go back. I could have sworn I announced it in a news podcast. I think it was 106, 107. I'm not sure. I will double check. There's actually a couple winners out there who have not gotten back to us for a couple things. So I will recheck that, Brian, and get back to you. I'll just message you, buddy. I'll let you know. Because if that person doesn't get back, I'll just give it to you. There it is there.
Hells yeah. Also, GODF, I think it's Francisco. Anyway, he posts a lot in here. Thank you for all of your comments. Yeah. He actually brings up something I want to talk to you guys about. As good as that last part was, Polaris broke open the door. She stopped the bullets. She took all the guns out of everyone's hands, and then they ran away. Were you guys expecting her to really go crazy and start bending cop cars and stuff, or do we think that's not really in her abilities yet? Is she just not quite powerful enough to do those types of things?
I was expecting it. I mean, I think for budgetary reasons, they did not have her do that, but I think that would have been, I was kind of surprised to see everybody just run away.
Well, the cars
were Monty Python at that point.
So, the cars were wrapped in plastic, so she was having problems.
Did they have a wrap?
They shrink wrapped all their cars. Yeah. No, I agree. I was kind of expecting, the Magneto scene where he's taking down all the bridges in New York and twisting them and turning them into these crazy sculptures and stuff. I kind of was expecting a smaller version of that, cars to get blown apart or whatever. But I think you're right. Budgetarily, I'd like to see them maybe save that budget for some bigger moments in the series.
Well, we've already seen that her powers powers are kind of limited already as it is. And she could do small scale stuff. She just can't do very large scale. Like taking the guns away, I think was the extent of her powers right there, because she was just pissed.
Yeah. Do we think she's going to get there to like Magneto levels at some point in the show?
Oh yeah.
She is pregnant, and you know what happens with the trope here is that usually when mutants are pregnant with powers, their powers amplify, and if they're going to follow the stereotype as
to hell with mutants, women,
general mom strength.
I've experienced it.
Brian also brings up the fact that these underground mutants were actually able to work pretty well together, even with their powers taken away. It seemed like they were a little bit outmatched, and they probably should have retreated, even though they decided not to. What did you guys think of that? Of their once they realized their powers were gone? Do you think they? Yeah, what do you guys think of that? Of what happened in the show?
I saw it so much in the scenes. I was waiting for the moment to come. So it wasn't a surprise to me, but I had watched the trailer a couple times. But them kind of going in and Eclipse having a gun, which was smart. I was thinking, I hope somebody brought something to shoot because they're going to get shot at. So he was the one smart and ballsy for taking on, I guess those guys, I don't know what they were shooting, but they were shooting rifles compared to, a little. A Glock or whatever the hell he had. I don't know anything about guns. So.
Also, Thunderbird in the previous 3 episodes had not failed to remind us, in those first 3 episodes that he was a Marine. So that's why
every episode, I believe.
Yes, every episode. Hoorah! He even has Semper Fi tattooed across his bicep as well.
Just in case we forget.
About that. So I was wondering when he was going to remember that he used to be a Marine and that he had training. And he did. He remembered it. He finally
did. Well, he could kick ass like normally. And that's what he did. And he wouldn't. No, I thought that was good. I liked the whole second half of that. That was it. Really, that's what I needed. That's what I've been waiting for. So, I think we're gonna get more of that. I don't think every episode's gonna be like that. And there's definitely a budget on the show. It's pretty obvious.
As long as we get moments like the Blink power is going crazy, and like as long as we get little nods to the fact that this isn't just a normal world, there are people with powers in it, then the powers are cool. I think as long as they do that, it doesn't have to be a big like action sequence. They can use the powers in very smarter ways, in fact. But I do like the fact that it seems like they're going to take us on these little arcs throughout this season. And it seems like this was the end of the beginning arc. And now we're going to start moving into less exposition and more of the meat of what the season is.
Yeah, I don't think Hollywood has caught up on the fact that you can't do filler episodes in the world we live in now with blokes like us doing podcasts every single episode. I don't think this is anything that even writers, they were Nashville writers, so they've probably been writers for 15, 20 years in Hollywood, and they're not used to like waking up the next morning and having tweets or some a-hole on YouTube criticizing their writing the next day, because this is the new spectator sport. Like you said on the Star Trek podcast last night, we're just like the guys breaking down a game, and it's a new thing, and not so new. It's been around for 3 or 4 years, but I don't think Hollywood is just quite used to it yet, and this is going to force them to pick up their game, and not do, not to say this episode was just this terrible thing, because it wasn't, but when you have 10 episodes, don't even, we expect more when you lessen the episode count. Like I could go off today on they talked about Doctor Who, and they just made it they got the female doctor, and they're all rad, we got a female doctor, but we're only giving her 10 episodes and we're going to make you wait a year. I mean, that's messed up. That's messed up to everything. And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., what didn't it just get reduced? It used to be on ABC 23 episodes, and it's down to 10. I mean, hopefully we're going to finally see some superheroes or something on the show, but are we? I don't know. When you're doing that, we expect more. Yes. You can't come out and just go, we're going to do the regular thing with 10 episodes, and they have to deal with the fact, and I'm not saying it's a great thing or not, but they have to deal with the fact that now Shock TV is what gets people talking on the internet about it. So that helps your show. I mean, you get people talking about it on YouTube, and it carries over into the next week. When you don't have people talking about your show and carrying it over the next week, it's going to hurt it.
Yep.
You know, and yeah.
So Gio also asks, will they? Okay, so in the age of like Flash and Arrow and all these shows where even Agents of like where it crosses over with other properties in that universe, do we think that Legion and Gifted will ever do that?
God, I hope
again,
so.
I don't think they will. I think that they don't view them as the same thing. It doesn't seem to me, but I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, if they both last long enough, I could see it happening. What about you, Dennis? Do you think it will?
I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're two totally different tiers of shows, and I'm with Gary on this. Legion is such a far better show, but I know you don't agree with us, John, on that. But it would be too different of where you're going to mix it. I mean, it'd be really hard to mix the two shows.
I think the only possibility would be is if a side character from one show came like on for a minute or two. I think that's like the most we'd ever get. But no, I agree. I don't think that FX is it's a different beast than Fox. I know they're owned by the same parent company, but they're not run by the same people. And it's basically it's a cable station. You know, even Taboo, that was farmed out by BBC. That wasn't even produced by FX. So
if they were both on Fox, I would say it would be more likely. But even then, the shows are just so different that it would be weird to see them like the way that even the powers work. It would be weird.
They're not though. They're really not. I know. Did you watch the whole season of Legion?
I watched
because at the end, it got very X-Men, and that's what surprises me, John. Is like they used a real X-Men villain. They didn't use like some made up villain. No. They used X-Men villain from a badass one.
And it was scary.
And it was freaky.
That's the problem. Here's the problem for me is Legion is very, very specific to me. It's like if you like that sort of entertainment, you're going to love Legion, but it doesn't speak to everybody. Whereas The Gifted, there's nothing to really turn off anybody, right? Like it's like you can find good in it. It's not great. It's not like it's not like something that like if you're really into this type of TV, there is no this type of TV. Yeah, exactly. It's like fast food, right? Like it's like fun. It's good. It's good fast food, but it's still not, Gifted is just a fun TV show. It's not supposed to be anything special. Legion is something special, but it also is very specific. If you don't connect with it, it's not going to be appealing to you at all. So
what we're saying is though that Legion had the same amount of episodes as The Gifted has, and they utilized less. They had eight episodes, and they utilized every single episode correctly. I mean,
hold on. No. What did you guys think about the second episode of Legion? Because I remember you guys hating.
We hated the second episode.
Okay, so that's bullshit.
But
there's
going
a whole
back
episode
in,
that you hated.
No. But then going back in and looking at it, it actually served a purpose because it actually moved along the plot. Yes, we hated it because we didn't know where it was going. And it was just really kind of frustrating watching that episode. And you're like, where the hell is this going?
Right.
But once we moved past that, it's like, oh, okay, this is where we're going with this. You needed to get past that second episode in order to do it.
Right. So anyway.
It served its purpose. It wasn't that it was a filler episode or a wasted episode. It was frustrating because you didn't know where it was going until you get to that third episode. And then you're like, okay, now I know where it's going.
Right. So what you're saying is until after episode 3, the show had issues, right? So they didn't make
the first episode.
The first episode was awesome.
It's so good. They put so much in that 1 hour of television. I just rewatched it right before I watched the show tonight. And dude, they put a movie's worth of information in the first episode. It is, I was watching going, oh man, I thought this happened over a couple episodes. This happened in one episode. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I can see how Legion's not for everybody. You got to be into to Fargo and to a certain extent, like maybe Mr. Robot. It's the trippiest comic show that I could ever think of. And this is a comic character I like. I couldn't stand. I read it because it was Bill Sienkiewicz art, and I hated it. I remember hating the comics. So now I'm going to go back and reread it. I'll probably end up liking it. Maybe I just didn't get it at the time. Who knows? I don't know. But I could definitely see the difference between even within X-Men fans, like who would like Harry, our mutual friend Harry Maldonado. I haven't talked to him, but I could guarantee you that he would like The Gifted over Legion.
Right.
I think he would be in John's camp, but
I think The Gifted is an X-Men show for X-Men fans more than The Gifted is. I think The Gifted is anyway. I've got a very my opinion on Gifted is in the minority, and I know that. I mean, not on The Gifted is on Legion is in the minority, and I know that. But it's also something where I do think it's not. My wife's not going to sit down with me and watch Legion. She will.
Yeah.
And going back to your question, if these two shows can cross over, I could see Blink opening a portal and having a little flash of the Legion universe.
That would be cool. You could totally do that.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Just something little. They might. That was a long answer to that question. So
no, it is. It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing to think about because you are talking about two very different TV shows that take place in the same universe, supposedly. So it's an interesting idea.
Melissa loves my wife Melissa, who's on this podcast once in a while. Loves The Gifted. She might even podcast about it.
That'd be great.
Yeah, she digs it. So, all right, guys.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks for the comments. I'd love to hear. You know what sucks is these questions don't go to the comments when we're done recording. They just disappear, which totally sucks. I don't like that at all. Fix that, YouTube. Brian and Geodef, you guys are awesome. Thank you. And comment away. I'd love to hear what you guys think about Legion and The Gifted. I want to hear what other people think about that too.
Yeah, leave it in the comments. Tell us what you think about each show. I know I'm in the minority. You can tell me I'm stupid. But I'm digging The Gifted, and I'm very, very happy that we're only on episode 4, and I feel like I felt like we were more than halfway through the season. And we're only on episode 4, so I'm so happy.
This is it's aside from Star Trek, like Mr. Robot and The Gifted are two things I look forward to after my day job. So
speaking of coming up, we have The Punisher, we've got Stranger Things, and we've got Runaways. Punisher and Stranger Things are binge shows on Netflix, which we're definitely going to cover the premiere. We'll definitely do a season wrap up. We may do even more than that. We may have reaction videos. May have episode recaps. So stay tuned for our coverage on both of those shows. And then on Runaways, the first 3 episodes are going to drop on the same day on November 21st. So we will be wrapping up all 3 of those episodes on that day, or at least the premiere on that day, that night. And then we've got Thanksgiving, and we'll see how we go from there. But we'll be covering Runaways as well as those episodes drop. So these are all shows I think we're all very excited for and expect to be much better than we've been about Star Trek.
And don't forget, we also have Thor Ragnarok that we're going to be covering. Justice League we have as well. Yes.
Let's not bring the conversation down, Dennis.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
It's more of a threat than a warning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, take us out, Dennis.
Awesome. No, wait. Sorry.
Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out, America.
May the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.